Hello, students. So let me now proceed to the next topic, methods of employee selection. So the last video I recorded what is recruitment all about. So after recruiting applicants, so we have now the applicant pool. So the next step that we have to do is to conduct selection. Selection is the process of making a hire or no hire decision regarding each applicant who applied for the vacant position. Okay, so again, the keyword here is to choose among the applicant pool or to select among the applicant pool. Okay, so to further discuss selection, we have here the following HR or human resource employment functions. So, saan ba papasok ang human resource department in the selection process? Of course, the human resource function is to receive the applications. Okay, after receiving the application, they will conduct the interview. After the interview, they may conduct or administer tests to the applicants. But again, 2 and 3 can be interchange, or let's say you may administer test first before you conduct interview, or you may interview first then conduct testing. And number 4, after the testing and interview, you may conduct background investigation. As part of the HR function, they conduct this background investigation. Then after background investigation, the HR arrange the physical examination. Okay, after that, they place and assign the new employees to the vacant position. Then after they assign, so na-hire na yung employee, the HR will coordinate, conduct follow-ups to the new employees. So itatanong niya, kamusta na niyo yung employees, o ano nang nangyari sa kanya. Then number 8, after let's say 6 months, gusto nang mag-resign ng empleyado, so the HR employment function or the HR will now conduct exit interview for the departing employees. Okay? And number 9, kahit na nag-exit interview na siya, nag-resign na siya, okay, the HR will still maintain the employee records and reports. Okay, so lahat ng mga employee records na to ay nasa tinatawag natin 2015. Okay, so ito yung mga functions ng HR department when it comes to the selection process. Okay, now, let's check. No, let's see the selection process flow. The first is applicant job interest. Of course, after the recruitment, the applicant will signify the his or her interest doon sa trabaho or vacant position. Then after that, there will be pre-employment screening. Okay, so i-screen yung resume, kung qualified ba siya based sa PSAOs or not. So after screening the resume, kapag nag-qualify yung applicant, bibigyan siya ng application form. Okay? So bakit kailangan ng application form? Of course, bibigay tayo ng application form for easier scoring. Because in the application form, bawat area, meron na siyang karampatang score, okay, or weights na tinatawag natin. So it will be easier for recruiters or for selection specialists to select the best among the applicants if meron siyang tinatawag natin application form. And it is also very helpful, of course, for the records or recording data from the applicants. Yung application form na din ang guide natin, what are the things that you have to check on the as part of the background of the applicant. Okay. Kapag sa resume kasi sobrang minsan hindi marunong gumawa yung aplikante ng resume, kung ano-ano yung pinaglalagay niya doon. And sometimes those information are not necessary for the job na ina-applyan niya. So, yung application form ay makakatulong sa atin para maiwasan yung mga ganon, yung paglalagay or pag-input ng unnecessary information. Okay, so that is application form. So once the applicant fill out the application form, okay, pwede nang mag-schedule for testing or interview. So conduct tayo ng testing and then interview. I will discuss further about testing and interview later. Okay, after this, after testing or interview, then the selection specialist will conduct background investigation. So magba-background investigate siya. And after ng background investigation, there will be additional interview. Optional lang to. Pwede ditong sabihin yung realistic job preview na tinatawag natin. The one I discussed last time in the previous video. And after the additional interview, you will do conditional offer. As you can see here, conditional muna siya. Why? Because meron pang last part, which is medical exam or drug testing. So the applicant should undergo drug test or medical exam before job placement. Okay? So there is a possibility na after ng medical exam ay bumagsak pa siya, or after ng drug test ay hindi siya makapasa, or malaman natin na meron pala siyang sakit na nakakahawa, or nagda-drugs pala siya. So kapag ganun, there is a tendency na hindi siya ma-hire. Kaya nga before the medical exam and drug test, conditional job offer pa lang yung binibigay natin. Okay? Hindi pa siya talaga job offer. So let's say, nakapasa siya sa medical exam or drug test. Okay? It will now proceed to what we call job placement. So meaning, i-hire na natin yung aplikante. So what do we do in the job placement? So we make job offer. Ano yung guidelines na sinusundan natin in making job offer? Of course, we have to formalize the offer with a letter to applicant clearly stating the terms and conditions of employment. Or sometimes this letter is called the contract. No? So, binibigay natin yung kontrata sa aplikante para i-sign niya yun. Okay. Make sure that you avoid vague terms, general statements, and promises in that contract. Then require return of signed acceptance offer. So make sure that you have a copy of the signed acceptance offer. On the part of the applicant, dapat magbigay din kayo ng copy. Okay, so always remember. Now, since a while ago, I discussed to you testing and interview. Now, let's highlight interview. Ano ba yung ginagawa natin dyan sa interview na yan? Okay, ano ba yung interview? Interview is a meeting between the job applicant and someone at the employing organization who will have input into the hiring decision. Okay, so meeting, this is a meeting. That's why before the interview, we schedule this. No, we talk to the interview, we and interviewer kung kailan yung exact time ng interview and where will be the venue. No, saan yung venue? What else? Of course, other instructions should be given para hindi mawala yung aplikante. Okay? So that's the interview. And there are types of employment interview. So we can categorize that first with regards to structure. So when it comes to structure, meron tayong ginatawag na structured and unstructured interview. The structured interview, this is the source of questions in a job analysis. This is job related. Number 2, all applicants are asked the same questions, and there is a standardized scoring key to evaluate each answer. So we can say that the interview question is structured if the questions to the first applicant is the same to the question on the second applicant, third applicant, fourth, five, or fifth, sixth, etc. Okay, so pare-pareho yung itatanong natin question. So that is a structured interview. Another is the question that we ask is based on the job analysis, based on the job description, job specification. No? So hindi tayo lalayo doon. Okay, and in each question, there is a rubric that we follow on how to score or evaluate the answer of the applicant. So kapag ganon, yung questions natin, we can say that it is an structured interview. Okay, how about an unstructured interview? This is when the interviewers are free to ask anything they want. So, pwede yung questions sa first applicant, right? Iba doon sa questions sa second applicant, then iba din sa third, iba din sa fourth, etc. Okay? And this one is, let's say, hindi dito required consistency when it comes to the questions that we ask. Okay, number 3, we may assign numbers of points at our own discretion, meaning yung raters, pwedeng or prone siya sa biases, no? It depends sa kanya kung paano niya i-rate yung applicant. Meaning, walang rubric na sinusundan. There's no standardized scoring. Okay, so that is a structured interview. And according to research, highly structured interviews are more reliable and valid than interviews with less structure. Okay, so always remember that. So in the company or in the industry, we prefer structured interview. Okay, so that's in terms of structure. Now, another question that we have to look into is, sino nga bang nagkakandak ng interviews? Okay, sino yung interviewers? I did not name the interviewers here because the company will appoint who will be the one to conduct the interview. So, it can be an individual, pwedeng mag-isa niya lang na mag-i-interview sa applicant. There is also possibility na individuals, madami sila, pero sequentially, meaning interviewin ka muna niya ngayon, or let's say HR, the HR chief, let's say, will interview the applicant. After ng HR, pupunta siya sa supervisor or future supervisor. Okay? After ng interview kay supervisor or future supervisor, kay VP. Okay? Then after nun, kay president. So this is an example of individuals. Individual si HR, si supervisor, si VP, at si president. Pero sequential, meaning sunod-sunod. Hindi sila sabay-sabay, pero magkakasunod. Si HR muna, supervisor, then after nun si VP, then si president. That is individual sequential. Panel interview naman ay mayroon tayong mga members ng panel, maybe a committee, so maybe 4 sila or 5, depende sa company. Okay, tapos andito si aplikante. Okay, eto si applicant, i-interviewin nila. So merong 4 sa harap ni aplikante, we call them panel, and they will ask questions to this applicant. Okay, the next is team interview. For the team interview, we have here the applicants, 4 na aplikante, kunyari, at tapos mayroon lang isa na mag-i-interview sa kanila. Sabay-sabay na i-interviewin itong 4 na applicants. That is team interview. Okay? So, to further explain that, we have here another type of employment interviews in terms of style. So, the first is one-on-one interview. So, there is one interviewer interviewing one applicant. Ito yon, yung individual. And second, serial interviews involves a series of single interview. So single interview, pero series siya. Magkakasunod. So it's like a sequential or individual sequential. Okay, and the other type or style is return interview, wherein you will ask the applicant to return maybe in the afternoon or tomorrow. Okay, maybe because the schedule is not fit. Okay, maybe busy yung mag-interview sa kanya, so you ask the applicant to return. And next is panel interview, wherein multiple interviewers are asking the same questions and evaluating answer of the same applicant at the same time. So it's like this one, the panel interview. One applicant, but there are members, okay, this one, the panel. Okay, next is group interviews, multiple applicants answering question during the same interview. So it's like this, okay? It's like the team interview here. Okay, that's group interview. Next, in terms of medium, we can do face-to-face interview. You know this already. We can also conduct it through telephone or maybe video conferencing like Google Meet, Zoom meeting, etc. Then written interview, should I say. So pwede rin sinusulat yung sagot sa questions. Okay? So that's in terms of medium. Now, what's the advantages and disadvantages of structured interviews? So the positive or advantages of structured interview is it is valid, no, compared to structured or unstructured interview. Another is they can add predictive power to the use of cognitive ability tests. Okay? It's less like, let's say you conduct interview, tapos nakita mo sa interview na magaling siya, no? So, nakikita mo na doon na etong tao nito ay magpa-perform well when you conduct cognitive ability tests. Well, that can happen if your question during the interview is structured and based on the job analysis. So, nagkakaroon ng predictive power. No, napre-predict mo na yung magiging result ng test niya. Okay? Doon pa lang sa interview. Okay, another, viewed more favorably by the courts because it has job analysis as the basis. So when it comes to law, structured interview is more favorable, compared doon sa unstructured. Kasi eto based sa job analysis, so may basis tayo in case may magdemanda, we can present to them the structured interviews or interview guides or questions para makita nila na based yon sa job analysis. Okay, number 4, positive results in less adverse impact because it taps on knowledge, job skills, applied mental skills, and interpersonal skills, or in short, the KSAOs. So the questions that we ask here are based on the job analysis, so we are tapping the KSAOs. Okay? How about negative? Of course, ang negative side nito ay doon sa side ng applicant. So feeling niya, mahirap, yung interview. Okay? Bakit? Kasi nga, nakabase siya sa trabaho. The job analysis. Okay, next. The applicant may feel they did not have the chance to tell the interviewer anything they wanted. So, feeling nila hindi sila nakapagsalita ng, nakapagbigay ng information about them during the interview. Okay, why? Because in structured interview, we only ask questions that we need, that matters based on the job analysis, job description, and job specification. So, yun yung basis natin. Kaya, feeling nila after the interview, hindi nila nasabi yung gusto nila sabihin. But anyway, the negative side here is it's more on the applicant side. Okay. So, sa applicant, yan, yung concern natin ay problema ng aplikante. But that's the real world. Okay? So we want to select the best applicant. That's why we are using structured interviews. Okay. So this slide presents the things or the common unstructured interviews to questions na, hindi dapat or hindi mahalaga kapag interview. Pag tinanong natin itong mga ito, dapat hindi natin ito ini-scorean. Okay? We can use this maybe to establish rapport, no, with the applicant, but we don't score this. Supposed to be, no, dapat hindi natin ini-scorean tong mga ito. Why? Because these are unstructured, meaning they are not related to the job, no, dun sa KSAOs at saka job description. Okay? So be familiar with this and avoid asking these questions later when you will be assigned, no, in the recruitment or selection as selection specialist. Okay. So next, problem with unstructured interviews. First, poor intuitive ability. So human intuitions and judgment are inaccurate predictors of future employee success. Ito kasing mga questions na ito, hindi na pinag-iisipan niyo. Minsan, pre-na-practice pa nga ng aplikante kung ano yung sasagot niyo sa mga ito eh. Okay? So, hindi talaga natin makikita kung magaling siya, no? In terms of cognition, no? Cognitive level. No? Hindi masyadong pinag-iisipan itong mga possible answer to these questions. Okay? So, yeah, as much as possible, do not use unstructured interview. Another, lack of job relatedness. Okay, information that is used to select employees must be job related if it is to have any chance of predicting future employee performance. Okay? So, ayan, it lacks job relatedness ang structured interview because it is not based on the job analysis. So as much as possible, we use structure. Okay? Next is primacy effect. So, madalas because of using unstructured interview, nagkakaroon ng primacy effect. O kunyari, yung first applicante, ang galing niyang sumagot dun sa mga tinanong mo sa kanya. No? Kasi nataon na madali yung tanong mo sa kanya. No? Kaya yung sumunod na aplikante, ang baba na ng score niya kasi nung nagtanong ka, no, iba na naman yung question mo at medyo mas mahirap yung tanong mo. Primacy effect can happen. This is an example of bias. No, if we are using unstructured interview. Okay? So to prevent judgment from getting influenced by first impression, interviewers need to rate the applicant's responses after each question. Okay, so para maiwasan daw yung primacy effect, every after question, nire-rate na natin yung applicant. Hindi yung aantayin mo pa silang matapos saka ka magre-rate, no? Yung natapos mo na siya tanungin, kunyari 10 questions yung itatanong mo, tinanong mo siya ng 10 questions. After ng 10 questions, doon mo pa lang siya i-rate. No, do not do that because that is prone to primacy effect. Okay? How about contrast effect? The interview performance of an applicant may affect the interview scores given to the next applicant. An applicant's performance is judged in relation to the performance of previous interviewees. Remember, when it comes to unstructured interview, there is no standardized scoring system. So, there is a possibility that instead of using rubric, no, we are doing, depende na lang yung pag-scoring natin. No? Yung trip mo, ito yung tingin mo, dapat mong iskoran, doon yung i-scorean mo. So, the tendency now is, since wala kang rubric, ang basis mo, si applicant number 1. Kung magaling sa applicant number 1, mas mababa yung ibibigay mo score sa next applicant. Okay? So, ang nagiging basis mo ng scoring na is si first applicant at hindi na yung rubric. Kasi walang rubric na sinusundan when it comes to unstructured interview. Okay, next is negative information bias. Negative information bias, no, apparently weight more heavily than positive information. So, when it comes to unstructured interview, pag may natanong ka, tapos medyo negative yung sagot ng aplikante, no, kahit hindi naman yung job related, mababa na yung score niya. Okay? So, unlike kapag structured yung interview natin, nakabase siya sa trabaho. No? Alam natin kung disqualifier ba yung questions or it's not. No? So, it's the structured interview is not prone to negative information bias. Pero yung unstructured is prone on this. Okay, another interviewee similarity. So if you're similar in terms of personality dun sa applicant, you have the tendency to give high score with this applicant. No? So research suggests that an interviewee will receive a higher score if it is similar to the interviewer in terms of personality, attitude, gender, or race. Okay, 7th, interviewee appearance. Research indicates that in general, physical attractive applicants receive high scores. So when the question is unstructured, we are prone to this bias. Kapag maganda siya, guwapo siya, mataas pa yung kanyang score. Another is nonverbal cues. Now, the use of appropriate nonverbal communication is highly correlated with interview scores. Like structured interviews are not as affected by nonverbal cues as are unstructured interviews. So, ang tendency kasi kapag kung ano-ano lang yung tinatanong natin, mas nakafocus na tayo later on sa gestures ng tao, yung nonverbal cues niya. Unlike when we have a structured interview, yung alam mo na yung itatanong mo, you are too focused on the answer to those questions, not on the nonverbal cues. Okay? So that is advantage for structured interview. Kaya iniiwasan natin yung unstructured interview. Okay, now, how to create a structured interview? Of course, the first thing that you have to do is conduct a thorough job analysis and write detailed job description. Then number 2, determine the best way to measure an applicant's ability to perform each task identified in the job analysis. And take note, not every KSAO can and should be tapped during the interview. No? Why? Kasi yung iba, pwedeng gamitan ng psychological test. Okay? So example, personality. Sometimes you cannot assess exactly the personality of the person through the interview. No? Or maybe may hunch ka na ganun siya. But you have to validate that. You have to use another tool, another way to assess, like using psychological tests or skills tests to measure the KSAOs. So, hindi lang interview ang pwede natin gamitin to tap the KSAOs. Okay? So, that's number 2, you determine ano ang best way to tap the KSAOs. Will it be interview or will it be psych test? So, kung yung mga pang-interview, ihiwalay mo, yun yung gagawa natin ng questions. Okay. Next, how to create interview questions. So in creating interview questions, the first is we can have questions about clarifiers. This allows the interviewer to clarify information in the resume, cover letter, and application, fill in gaps, and obtain other necessary information. Example question, I noticed a 3-year gap between two of your jobs. Could you tell me about that? So here you are clarifying something about what's written in the resume of the applicant. Next is disqualifiers. These questions must be answered the particular way or the applicant is disqualified. Example, do you have a driver's license? So let's say the person is applying for the position as driver, no? So kailangan niya ng driver's license. So you have to look into whether that person or that applicant has what we call driver's license. So you can ask a question, no, para makita mo kung disqualified siya or not. Next is skill level determiner. This one is top an interview's level of expertise. Example, several months after installing a computer network, the client calls and says that nothing will print on the printer. What could be going wrong? Okay, so here our focus is the skill. So you have to review the KSAOs, kung ano yung skill na kailangan niya dun sa trabaho na yun. And then you create a question, no, maybe a situation, no, that will look into the skill of the applicant. Okay, next. Number 4, future focus question. This is also called a situational question. Do not forget this, no? As an applicant, what she would do is in a particular situation. So this is done by collecting critical incidents, no? Mga logbooks, tingnan natin doon yung mga situations na nangyayari sa mga empleyado natin, and then we can create a situation out of those. Then we will ask the applicants to answer those questions or those situational questions. So example, imagine that you are told that the client that you would be there at 10 a.m. Then it is now 10:30 and there is no way you will be finished with your current job until 11:30. You're supposed to meet with another client for lunch at noon and then be at another job at 1:15 p.m. How you handle this situation? Okay, so as you can see, this is a situational question related to the job. And so we call it future focused question or situational questions. Number 5 is past focused questions, also referred to as pattern behavior description interviews or PBDIs or behavioral questions. So this one, applicants are asked to provide specific examples of how they demonstrate job-related skills on their previous job. Example, when you are dealing with customers, it is inevitable that you are going to get someone angry. Tell us about the time, so past siya, no? When a customer was angry with you, what did you do to fix the situation? Okay? So, as you can see here, situation siya, pero past ang focus niya. So that we can see or check the behavior of the person, no, doon sa experience niya in the past. Okay, so that's number 5. Another question that we can create, or let's say organizational fit questions. These stop the extent to which an applicant will fit into the culture of an organization or with the leadership style of a particular supervisor. So the idea is to make sure that the applicant personality and goals are consistent with those of the organization. So example question, what type of workplace is best for you? Or you can simply ask, no, what leadership style do you prefer? Will it be relationship oriented or task oriented? Okay, mga ganong question. To see if the person is fit sa kanyang leader, supervisor, or fit siya doon sa mismong organization. Okay, so that's organizational fit question. Okay, now there are 3 main methods in creating a scoring grid for interview. Okay, so to discuss this, I'll give you 3 points for this. The first is right wrong approach. So we can create a question wherein there is a right or wrong answer to that question. It can be scored simply as on the basis of whether the answer was correct or incorrect. Example, as a server, how can you serve a glass of wine to a 16-year-old if his parents are present and give permission or gave permission? Yes or no lang ang sagot dyan. So we can say if it's right or wrong. So that's an example of the way we score the question. Okay, another is typical answer approach. This is done by creating a list of possible answers to each question. Okay, so have subject matter experts rate the favorableness of each answer and then use these ratings to serve as benchmark answer for each point on the scale. So, magre-research tayo dito, of course. It's like you were going to ask the list of questions to maybe your current employees, no, and then they will give their answers to those questions. Tapos titignan mo kung alin doon yung pinaka the best na answer, and then you will appoint a weight on that answer. So let's say 5, yung pinakamaganda, yung second doon is 4, then 3, 2, 1. So that's how you will come up with a typical answer to those questions. So mayroon ng kaakibat na rating. But of course, the subject matter expert should really look into these answers. No? Kasi baka mamaya unrelated naman yung mga sagot ng mga respondents natin. Kaya mahirapan tayong makita kung alin doon ang pinakamataas ang score at pinakamababang score. So we really need here the subject matter experts. Okay? Then another is another problem with typical answer approach is minsan kasi ang daming sagot, no? So we don't know really kung alin doon ang pinaka the best unless the subject matter will look into those answers. No? Then number 3, key issue approach, or the SMEs create a list of key issue they think should be included in the perfect answer. Now, for each key issues that is included, the interviewee gets points. The key issue can also be weighted so that the most important issues can get more points. Okay? So here, the people or the SMEs or the subject matter experts are the main people in charge to this. So they will look into possible issues na tingin nila perfect as perfect no answer to questions, and then they will come up with keys, scoring keys to this issues, and that will be the appointed weights per each answer. So, magkita tayo ng example. No? So, this is an example of typical answer approach. So, nag-float siya ng question, tapos ito yung mga sagot ng mga respondents. Then later on, nag-appoint si SMEs no, kung alin sa mga sagot na ito ang 1 ang weight, 2 ang weight, 3 ang weight, 4 ang weight, at 5 ang weight. Okay? So, for the key approach or key issues approach naman, no, there is an issue question. No, like, what should you do when you have this kind of customer, ganon. No? So, andito yung mga sagot ng respondents. Tapos, okay, ayan. No, ito yung mga possible sagot sa question, and then the applicants or the what do you call this? Yes, the applicant wants na ito yung kanyari, ito yung sagot ng aplikante, i-check mo lang yan, no, so that you can say no, meron ding karampatang mga points itong mga ito. So may mga weights yan. Okay? So the SMEs or the subject matter expert should be the one doing this scoring examples. Okay. Kung ang HR ang tinalaga, edi siya yung magagawa. No? Pero group kasi usually ito, it's a committee no, in charge with developing the questions and scoring system for the structured interview questions. Okay, so how to conduct then the structured interview? So the first is you have to build rapport. So let the applicant settle down. Kapag kinakabahan siya, kailangan may gawin ka doon, no? Maybe you can ask questions na yung makakapagbigay ng saya sa kanya para mag-relax siya, no? So maybe you can ask paano niya nalaman yun, yung job opening, no, kamusta siya, yung gano'n. So that's building rapport, okay? And then after building rapport, set the agenda, explain the process by telling applicants the type of question that will be asked and point out that each interviewer will be asking or will be taking notes, should I say, and scoring the answers immediately after the interviewee has responded. No? So, you just set the agenda kung ano yung gagawin nyo. No? So that we will be asking questions, and in each question you will be responding, you will answer. Okay, and in each question there will be scores be given to you by the interviewer. Ganun, mga ganun. So, set the agenda. Okay, then after nun, ask the interview questions. So yung nasa structured interview mo, itanong mo na. Okay, if necessary to ask follow-up questions, you can do semi-structured interview. So meaning, pwede kang mag-follow up. Okay, pero still nandun pa rin yung structured guide questions mo. Okay, number 4, provide information about the job and the organization. So after you ask the questions, the structured interview questions, you can provide information about this job. You can include here yung realistic job preview. Or you may also ask the applicant kung meron siyang mga questions. Okay? So, pwedeng ma-include dito yung salary, benefits, job duties, opportunity for advancement or promotion, history ng organization, yan. You provide all those information. And then after giving those information, you end the interview by complimenting the interviewee and letting her know when you will be contacting her about the job offer. So make sure that you provide this information, hindi yung papaasahin mo lang yung aplikante. Like 2 months na, wala ka pang feedback. No? So you have to inform the applicant kung kailan ka magbibigay ng feedback para hindi siya umaasa. Okay? So that's conducting structured interview. Okay, now, after the interview, you can do testing, or after testing, you may do references and letters of recommendation. So pag-usapan natin yung references and letters of recommendation before testing. So here, ano ba yung mga reasons bakit tayo nagka-conduct ng references and recommendation check? Of course, to confirm the details in your resume. Kasi madaming manloloko, madaming resume fraud. And also to check for discipline problem. No? Baka may problema yan sa dating kumpanya niya. No? So, magkaroon pa ng negligent hiring. Okay? So, we have to check this. It's really essential to check the discipline or for discipline problems. So, itanong niyo lang, baka tatawagan niyo yung mga references niya dun sa resume. You ask yung previous job niya kung may issue siya sa sexual harassment, attendance problem, violence, etc. Okay, next, discovering new information about the applicant. So, sometimes hindi lang negative ang nakukuha natin pagdating sa references and recommendations checking. Sometimes nadi-discover natin yung mga hindi niya in-include sa resume niya, which are positive things about the applicant, like the habits, character, personality, or skills. No, we can discover that through reference checking and recommendations. Okay. Another is we can also predict the future performance through reference checking and recommendations. But of course, this has a low validity. Bakit? Simply, kasi una sa lahat, yung mga references na nilagay nila doon sa resume nila, syempre pinili nila yun. Yung aplikante hindi naman basta-basta maglalagay ng kung sino-sino lang dun sa kanyang references na alam niyang hindi siya i-build up, di ba? Kaya, when it comes to references checking and recommendation checking, medyo mababa yung validity niya. And also reliability, may ibang concerns yan sa reliability. Yung recommendations naman, sometimes kagaya na lang in the Philippines, no, sometimes the mayor recommend you, no, um, pero ang totoo niyan, si mayor hindi ka naman niya kilala, no? Kaya minsan mababa yung validity ng references and recommendation checking. Okay, aside from that is leniency, no? So pag naglagay ka ng tao sa reference mo, syempre takot siya na what do you call this one, magbigay siya ng information na negative about you. Why? Kasi baka makasuhan siya ng slander or libel. Okay? Takot siya. Okay? Next is knowledge of the applicant. Sometimes the person writing the letter often does not know the applicant, kagaya ni Mayor, no? So another reliability issue, the lack of agreement between two people who provide references for the same person. Sometimes sasabihin ni reference one na ganito ka, no, sasabihin niya magaling ka, tapos si reference to sasabihin niya may mga violations ka. So inconsistent, no? So walang reliability sometimes, no? Another is what we call extraneous factors, more specific rather than general. Longer letters are more positively received or perceived, no? So pag alam niyo yun, isang page hanggang sa baba yung recommendation letter, wow, no? Mayroong impact yun sa perception ng isang tao. So the more mas mahaba yung recommendation letter, the more na nagiging positive yung perception natin doon sa aplikante. Okay? Pero alam natin na yun ay bias lang yun or bias natin sa applicant. That's why when it comes to references and recommendations, hindi masyadong reliable itong mga ito. Okay. So, ano ba yung mga sources ng information when it comes to background information or background checking? So we can look into the previous employment records, criminal records, yung NBI, police clearance, and drug test. We can also look into credit history, honesty test, and social security number. Okay? I-check din natin kung naging sex offender siya, no? Workers' compensation records also, and military records. And tingnan din natin yung educations, professional certification or licenses, and motor vehicle records. So ito yung mga chine-check natin or possible sources natin when we do background checking. No? Pag may tumawag tayo ng mga references or tumawag tayo ng mga nag-recommend doon sa applicant natin. So ito yung mga hahanapin nating mga information or source. Okay? So aside from talking to them, pagaya ng professional certification, kunyari PRC, pwede natin i-google yan. Makikita natin yung list kung kailang taon siya nagka-license. You can check there and validate kung nandun siya. No? So madami pa tayong pwedeng paghanapan na hindi lang doon sa references niya na nilagay ang pwede nating pagtanungan ng about sa aplikante. We can also look into this. No, itong mga ito. Hanapin natin itong mga ito, information na ito about the person. Yan. With the permission of the person, of course, of the applicant. So, may consent. So, hindi tayo makasuhan. Okay? So, ayan. So, ayan yung mga kailangan nating mga sources para masabi natin na yung applicants wala siyang problem, wala siyang disciplinary problem, or wala siyang mga issues and concerns. Para hindi tayo maging negligent, no, when it comes to selecting the best among the applicants. Okay. So next is we also look into, aside from looking into the references, we can also refer to applicant's training. We check the training of the applicant, the education of the applicant, and take note of this. It is important to look into the GPA or the GWA, general weighted average of the applicant. Why? Because GWA is very, very effective as predictor of performance. No? Ito. It can predict job performance. So the more na mas mataas yung kanyang GWA, the more na inaasahan natin na magpa-perform siya well doon sa job na ina-apply niya. Okay? But take note that GWA can only be effective in the first few years no, after graduation. Okay? Pero kung 10 years nang lumipas, 20 years nang lumipas, hindi na effective yung GWA niya. Okay? So take note of this. Okay? So ano na tinitignan natin kung 10 years nang lumipas, 20 years nang lumipas, 5 years nang lumipas? Ang chine-check na natin nun ay yung kanyang experience, work experience. Okay, so we're done now with the reference checking and recommendation. So kanina na-discuss ko yung interview. So side by side with interview, pwede tayong mag-conduct ng testing or psychological test. Basta alam natin kung saan natin gagamitin yung psych test, and these tests should top kung ano man yung KSAOs na kailangan natin. Okay? So ano ba yung psychological test? It consists of standardized or standard set of items or tasks that a person completes under controlled condition. Most involve paper-pencil tasks such as answering questions or solving problems, although some involves manipulations of physical objects to assess such characteristics as manual dexterity or pwede rin eye-hand coordinations. These are used to assess ability as well, including interest, knowledge, personality, and skills of the applicant. Okay, so there are characteristics of test. No, may mga test na ina-administer siya in group at may mga tests that we have to administer that individual. So group tests can be administered in several people at once. Okay, like mga personality tests, paper pencil test na pwedeng magsabay yung 25 na tao, 50 na tao, etc. Okay, pero may mga tests din like projective test na kailangan one-on-one yung pag-administer doon sa test. Okay? So there are tests na close-ended and there are also tests that open-ended. When you say close-ended, the test taker must choose one from several possible responses. So mayroon ng choices doon, pipili na lang siya. Kaya siya sinabing close-ended. Okay? Pag sinabi naman natin open-ended, it's like an essay, no? The test taker must generate response. Okay? Gaya rin ng sentence completion test, no? Yung SACS sentence completion test. No? So mayroong statement, like, my father is, tapos i-continue mo yung statement na yun. So that's an open-ended test. Okay? Next, we have paper and pencil, and meron din tayong performance test. So when we say paper and pencil, we can administer a test with a piece of paper, printed yung copy ng test. No, merong mga questions dun sa paper na yon. Tapos sasagot sila sa answer sheets, no, using pen or pencil. So that's paper and pencil test. Usually sa industry, mga ganito yung administer natin. But there are also performance tests. Involves the manipulation of apparatus, equipment, materials, or tools. And sometimes mas reliable pa ito, itong performance test, kaysa sa paper pencil test. Okay, why? Kasi usually sa performance test, nakikita talaga natin how the person perform, no, how the person do the job. Like for example, if we are looking for a teacher, ang performance test na pwede sa kanya is teaching demo. Okay? So that's a performance test. Okay, another is power versus speed test. When we say power test, it gives a test taker almost unlimited time. So meaning there's no time limit. While when we say speed test, it's very strict when it comes to time. Like mga cognitive ability tests, merong mga time limit like 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 15 minutes, gano'n. Okay, so those are example of speed test. Okay, so we also have, so those are the characteristics, of tests. Now, let's move on to what we call work sample. Okay, so apart from psychological tests, we have what we call work samples. Ano itong mga work samples na ito? These tests, or a test, that asks the person to perform simulated job under standardized conditions. So it is designed to measure the extent to which an applicant already has job-related skills. So the person is given necessary materials, tools, must perform a particular task, such as assembling motor under controlled condition. The example nito is an applicant as automotive mechanic might be asked to fix or torn fan belts. Yung secretary, pwede ring pagawan siya ng letter. Yung truck driver, pwedeng they call this one, truck up, or let's say you simply drive, back a truck up to a loading dock. No? So we can ask the person or the applicant to do a sample work. Yun yung pinaka summary ng works. Okay, so what's the positive side of this? This is very excellent in terms of selection method, very direct, related to the job. It predicts actual performance, less challenge import. But the negative side is it's very expensive to conduct and to administer. Okay, so meron din tayo guys, class, tinatawag na assessment center. What is assessment center? This is a selection technique characterized by the use of multiple assessment method that allows assessor to actually observe applicants perform simulated job tasks. Meaning, from the word assessment, we use different kinds or types of testing here. Okay? So usually, may mga companies na meron silang assessment center. Yung iba, wala silang assessment center. So, in the end, ang gumagawa ng assessment sa kanila ay yung HR department. Sila yung nagsiserve as assessment center. But to some, they have what we call assessment center. So sa assessment center, they measures how well a person is able to perform the task of a specific job. This is commonly used to assess potential managerial or other white-collar job, meaning yung medyo matataas ang posisyon and uniform employees like doctor, nurse, teacher, lahat ng nakapagtapos ng 4-year course ng mga trabaho, yan, white-collar jobs. Okay? So, mga matataas na posisyon. So, usually, yun yung ginagamitan natin na assessment center. The common exercises included in the assessment center are the following: in-basket technique, simulations, where examples, yung na-discuss ko kanina, leaderless group discussion, structured interview, personality and ability tests, and business games. Okay, and I'll discuss this further in the next slides. The assessor typically holds position 2 levels higher than the assessors and spend 1 day being trained. They rate the applicants going through the assessment center. So the idea here, dapat yung mag-rate at mag-assess ng mga applicants ay 2 level higher than the job they are applying for. So kung yung applicant ay nag-a-apply sa trabaho na ito, dapat yung mag-a-assess sa kanya ay mas mataas ng 2 level. Okay? So another is, of course, dapat may training yung assessor. So next is the next slide. These are the techniques that being used in the assessment. The first is in-basket exercise. The assessors are asked to pretend that it is the first day of the new job or in their new job, and they have found a series of items in their in-baskets. So, pwedeng sa email yan, isi-send sa email, tapos dun sa email na yon may mga list of jobs na kailangan nilang i-accomplish. So, the applicant is asked to go through the items and respond as if he were actually on the job. That's an in-basket exercise. The second is leaderless group exercise. Several assessors are given problem to solve together with no leader appointed. So the idea here is they will not appoint a leader. So may papagawa sa mga aplikante, dadalhin sila sa isang room without leader. Okay, and the idea when it comes to leaderless group exercise is the leader will arise. Okay, so kagaya na lang sa mga group projects ng student sometimes, di ba? Wala man i-appoint na leader, pero once you discuss with your group mates, there is one or someone or somebody who will arise as a leader. So yun yung idea din nitong leaderless group exercise. The problem with this maybe, of course, dahil mga leaders yan, competitive sila. Okay? Or sometimes, hindi nagko-cooperate yung iba kasi feeling nila mas maganda yung idea nila. So there will be issues when it comes to cooperation. Okay? So applicants are rated on dimensions such as cooperativeness, leadership, and analytical skills. So that's leaderless group exercise. So another technique is the problem-solving simulations. The assessee is given a problem and asked to come up with a solution, perhaps producing a report. So may problem na kailangan niyang isolve, tapos solve lang niya yun. Okay, maybe pwede ring written ito eh. Okay? Then another is role-playing exercise from the word itself, role-play. So the assessee is asked to pretend to be in a particular person in a specific organizational role. The task is to handle a problem or situation such as counseling or a troubled employee or dealing with a rates customer. So ayan, parang magkakaroon lang siya ng role play. Okay? So next is business game. So in a form of a game, so in relation to this, you may watch the intern or internship ata yung title nun, wherein there are two guys who applied for internship in Google. So this is a movie. No? At nung nag-apply sila sa Google, merong ibang interns din. They are group. So naggrupo-grupo sila. And may mga pinagawa sa kanila in the form of game. At yung mananalo sa game, sila yung ma-absorb doon sa company. So that's an example of business game. So pwedeng may competition, then later on, we decide kung sino ang makagawa ng mga tasks doon sa competition, sila yung i-hire natin. So that's business games. Okay, so aside from those, the assessment center also assess the ability of the applicants. So they can administer ability tests. So ability tests tap the extent to which an applicant can learn or perform a job-related skills. So ability tests are primarily used for occupations in which applicants are not expected to know how to perform the job or at the time of hire, but would be taught the necessary job skills and knowledge. So this is the idea of ability test or yung tinatawag din natin itong aptitude test. So meaning, no, pag in-administer natin itong mga aptitude test na ito, okay, maaaring wala pa sa kanya yung skill na yan, or should I say ability na yan, na wala pa sa kanya ability na yan. Pero kapag nag-perform well siya dun sa ability test na yan, there is a possibility or meron siyang tendency or ability, no, na mag-perform well dun sa area na yan. For example, nag-administer ka ng aptitude test sa mathematics. Okay? So, maaring hindi naman siya kagalingan sa math. Pero nung nagpa-test ka ng ability test or aptitude test sa math, ang taas ng nakuha niya. It's above average. So, we can say na kapag hinar mo yan, no, in the future, no, kahit i-train mo lang siya ng konti, kaya niyang i-absorb yung math. No? Kaya niyang aralin yung math. At kaya niyang mag-perform using math in the job. Okay? So that's the idea of aptitude test or ability test. So an ability or aptitude is the capacity to do or learn to do a particular task. So cognitive abilities such as intelligence are relevant to tasks that involve information processing and learning. So isa sa ability test na mini-measure natin in the assessment center is the cognitive ability. Okay. Another is psychomotor ability, kagaya ng manual dexterity, mga yan. Then some jobs are requiring most cognitive abilities. Yung iba naman, psychomotor ang kailangan. No? In short, it depends on the job. Okay? Dependent sa job, sa vacant position, kung ano yung ability test na dapat nating i-conduct. Okay. Example of cognitive test. Ito yung mga possible dimensions ng cognitive test. Oral and written comprehension, oral written expression, numerical facility, originality, memorization, reasoning, and general learning. No? Pumapasok din dito ang intelligence, IQ, no? Mga IQ test natin, general cognitive ability test, okay? At marami pang iba. So yan mostly ang mini-measure ng cognitive ability test. Okay, what else? Some tests have been developed that do not rely on reading ability such as non-verbal intelligence tests. No, still categorized under cognitive ability tests. Yung mga non-verbal tests, like, ito yung mga abstract na tests. Yung may mga drawings, tapos sasagutin mo kung ano yung next doon sa series or doon sa drawing na yun. Okay? So research has consistently shown that cognitive ability tests are valid predictors of job performance. So we believe that when we conduct cognitive ability tests, pag mataas siya doon, magpa-perform well siya sa kanyang trabaho. Okay, so this is an example of a test, the Wonderlic personal test, but please do not screenshot this. This is forbidden, no? This is just used for discussion purposes. So avoid capturing this or else you will be reported. Okay? Next, another example, perceptual ability test. Ito yung kanyang example question. Okay? Ito yung pwedeng ma-measure dyan. Okay. We also have psychomotor ability test. Tinitignan yung coordination ng mga senses mo. Tinitignan yung finger dexterity, manual dexterity, yung mga ito. Control, reaction time. Usually, itong mga ito, ginagamit sa mga trabaho na ma-physical like bombero, military, mga yan. Okay. Police officer, carpenter. So, yan. Example of hand tool dexterity test. Ito. Okay. Another is this one. Okay. We also conduct physical ability tests. Of course, depende sa trabaho ulit. No? So, sa mga bombero, applicable to. Nagkakaroon tayo ng job simulations. Sinisimulate nila yung trabaho. Kagaya niyan. No? Kunyari, meron siyang papatayin na sunog. So, that's an example of job simulation. Okay? So, through this, we can test their abilities kung kaya nilang gawin yung trabaho. Okay? Ito yung mga examples of physical abilities na pwede nating i-measure. Stamina, flexibility, strength, mga yan, etc. Okay, now, let's move on to what we call knowledge and skills tests. Pag sinabi natin knowledge and skills test, we also call this as achievement test. This is designed to assess a person's level of proficiency. So a knowledge test assesses what one knows, whereas a skill test assesses what one is able to do. So ulitin ko ha, ang knowledge ay kung ano ang alam mo at ang skills test assess kung ano yung kaya mong gawin. Okay? So for this, example of knowledge test or achievement test, yung board exam yan. Okay? Example lang yan. So, another example, we have here the name, mechanical comprehension test. No? Ito ang example niyan. So, ito yung items. At may mga questions dyan. Okay, next. So, another that we can administer is yung tinatawag nating personality inventory. So, ano yung personality inventory niyan? These are psychological assessment designed to measure various aspects of an applicant's personality. No? So, kung gusto natin measure yung personality, let's say it's part of your yung sa job analysis, the KSAOs, na dapat conscientious siya, no, dapat stable ang emotion niya, then you may use personality test. Okay? Like, you want to measure yung sociable siya, ayan. Okay? Dominant ba siya, etc. So, madaming traits or dimensions ang personality. So, makikita yan sa personality test manuals, kung ano man yung test na gagamitin natin. So, magbibigay ako ng examples kung ano yung mga ginagamit natin na personality test. To test the normal personality, sometimes we use the MBTI or the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Dinevelop or galing ito sa theory ni Carl Jung. Okay. Other good tests includes the NEU-PI-R, 16PF, and the MMPI or the Minnesota Multiphysic Personality Inventory. So these are examples of tests that measures a normal personality. E paano kapag gusto nating ma-detect yung psychopathology? Ano yung gagamitin natin? We can use the Rorschach ink blot, the thematic apperception test, which are categorized under projective tests. We can also use MMPI-2. So yung MMPI dito, yung Minnesota Multiphysic Personality Inventory, meron siyang version 2. And yun yung ginagamit natin to test psychopathology. We can also use Myelon Clinical Multiaxial Inventory or the MCI-3 and the Personality Assessment Inventory or the PAI. Ito madalas gamitin ito sa psychiatry. Okay? So, ayan. Examples of personality test. Yung NEU-PI-R, ito yung mga mini-measure niya. Yung Big Five. Extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness to experience. So, kapag low scorer ka sa mga yan, ito yung personality meron ka. Kapag high scorers ka sa mga yan, ito naman yung mga personality or personality meron ka. Okay? Or interpretation niya. The idea is, kapag leader ka, dapat mataas ka sa extroversion, mataas ka sa conscientiousness, mababa ka sa neuroticism, kasi ang mababa sa neuroticism, ibig sabihin emotionally stable. Okay? And of course, dapat mataas ka sa openness to experience. Pero hindi ka dapat mataas sa agreeableness kapag leadership position. Why? Kasi kapag mataas ka sa agreeableness, agree ka lang ng agree. So, dapat ang isang leader, hindi madaling napapaniwala, hindi madaling nag-a-agree. Okay? Dapat skeptic. Pinag-iisipan natin. Okay? So, a conscientiousness and emotional stability are the best predictor of individual performance in almost every job. Conscientious employees set higher personal goal themselves and more motivated. Kasi pag sinabi natin conscientious, it's more on pagiging responsible sa trabaho at sa task. Kaya nakakapag-set siya ng personal goals. Maganda yung kanyang performance. Then extroversion is associated with performance in sales and management jobs. Mga marketing, ganyan, sales. Dapat mataas ang extroversion. Agreeableness naman associated with performance in jobs where employees are expected to cooperate and be helpful. Okay? People high in openness to experience dimension tend to be more creative and adaptable to change. So kung in-expect mong mabilis magbago yung processes nyo, no, at mga products, system sa inyong company, dapat ang i-hire nyo ay somebody who's high in openness to experience. Okay, next. So that's personality. Another measure is emotional intelligence test. We can also administer emotional intelligence test to check if the applicant can control yung kanyang emotion and can recognize his or her emotion. Okay? So in theory, this ability makes people more socially skilled, enabling them to be aware of and to control their impact on others. In work setting, this means being able to work smoothly with colleagues, yung hindi nakikipag-away, and in supervisory position, the ability to exert leadership. And of course, currently, the construct validity of the AI is still in dispute among researchers, meaning it's still currently under development yung scale natin on emotional intelligence. Bina-validate pa further para ma-prove na effective siya. Okay, so ano yung mga constructs natin dito? We measure the relationship management, the social awareness, okay, self-management, kung kaya niya i-manage, and self-awareness. So ito yung mga tinitignan nating areas when it comes to emotional intelligence competencies. Okay. Did you know that prior to 1990s, employers used polygraph and voice stress analyzer to screen applicants? This is now illegal for employee selection process. So before, ginagamit nila ito, but now, we no longer use this. These are illegal and do not adhere doon sa mga legal guidelines natin. And in fact, we are not measuring here yung mga job-related KSAOs. Okay, another that we can administer yung integrity test. Integrity test is also called as honesty test. Okay? So, kung gusto mong i-measure kung nag-cheat siya or hindi, kung honest siya, kung nagsasabotage siya, may tendency siyang magnakaw, magkaroon ng unethical behavior, you have to use integrity test. The overt integrity test assesses attitudes and prior behavior. They measure attitude by asking the test taker to estimate the frequency of theft in society. How harsh penalty against theft or thieves, should be. So, kung galit na galit siya sa mga magnanakaw, may tendency na, of course, itong taong to hindi magnanakaw. Pero kapag medyo hindi siya harsh sa mga magnanakaw, no, gina-justify niya yung magnanakaw, then may tendency na magnakaw siya sa company niya. Kung sasabihin niya, it depends, delikado yun, no? Another, personality-based integrity test assesses personality characteristics that have been found to predict counterproductive behavior. So, no, pwede namang hindi mismo integrity test, tignan lang natin yung personality niya, kung conscientious siya at risk-taker siya. Through this, we can check if may tendency siyang magkaroon ng counterproductive behavior. Kapag risk-taker yan, ibig sabihin kahit hindi magandang bagay, nire-risk niya, ginagawa niya. So there is a possibility na magkaroon siya ng counterproductive behavior o yung mga behavior na hindi kaaya-aya in the workplace. Okay? So that's integrity test. Vocational interest test. Pwede rin tayo mag-administer nito. Example of this is the self-directed search or vocational interest test of Poland. So tinitignan lang dito kung ano yung interest natin. Example of this is yung NCAI ng high school. So the 6 personality type of Poland where we can check the interests of individual composed of 6 construct, RIASEC, realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. So pag nakita natin yung interest niya, malalaman natin kung appropriate siya doon sa job na ina-applyan niya. No? So kung ang ina-applyan niya ay chemist, dapat ang interest niya ay investigative. Okay? So that's the 6 personality type. Next is biodata. What's biodata? Is a method of selection involving application blanks that contains questions that research has shown will predict job performance. Ano yung mga question na yun that predict job performance na dapat natin i-include sa biodata? Ito yung mga yun. Okay? So when you were in grade school and people were being picked for teams where you usually pick, number of jobs in the last 5 years, in your first full-time job, how often did you initiate conversation with correct mo na yan, conversation with your immediate supervisor. Have you even been fired from a job? And the rest. So, ito yung mga pwede natin include sa biodata. Natingin natin na based on research, they predict job performance. Okay, so did you know that compared to non-drug users, research has found that illegal drug users are more likely to miss work, more likely to be fired and quit jobs, 16 times likely to use healthcare benefits, so magastos, no? And 3.6 times as many accidents on the job. That's why sometimes we look if the person is drug addict or not. Kaya meron tayong drug test before hiring. Okay. So drug test is of course included in the process. Yung iba, instead na drug test, ang nilalagay nila is medical exam. Just for the safety of everyone in the company. Okay. Next is graphology. Etong graphology na to, hindi na natin siya ginagamit, pero ginagamit to in the past. This is a method of measuring personality by looking at the way which a person writes. This in turn will presumably indicate work performance. This is used in France and Germany, pero hindi siya popular. Okay? Graphologists looks at the size, slant, width, yan, ng inyong pagsulat. This predict affective states such as stress, but not job performance. Kaya hindi na siya ginagamit ngayon kasi it will not predict job performance. But if you want to look into how stressful the person, maybe you can check kung paano siya magsulat, kung masyadong madiin or hindi. Okay, so makikita natin doon kung stress siya or not. Okay? Pero sometimes during the testing, syempre, testing yun eh, kaya stress siya. No? Kaya minsan, kung titignan natin, we don't really need graphology in the selection process. Unless, no, yung trabaho mismo ay graphologist, no? Or tagasulat. Okay? So, that's it. No, that's it for the testing. So, balikan ko ha. Okay. So, as you can see here, we talk about application form, testing and interview. Na after the testing and interview, we do background investigation. Pwedeng may optional interview, and then conditional offer, tapos medical exam or drug test. Then after nun, kapag nakapasa siya sa lahat ng yan, job placement na. Paano kapag may tatlong nag-tie? No? So we just recommend them, and then the president for the appointing authority will be the one to select who among the recommended applicants should be chosen, no, for the vacant position. Okay, so that is all about selection. If you have questions, just comment in so I can answer your queries.